the team says all the time is, wouldn't it be incredible what we could accomplish if nobody cared who got the credit?
So
And
good.
that is how I see that team operate day in and day out. It's, that whole team operates in a manner of, it's not about us. It's
Yeah.
about these kids. It's about these vulnerable people.
Right.
And if we keep the focus there, it makes the decision making a whole lot easier.
It's exciting to see. It's exciting to have conversations about life, sustainability, legacy, and not just talking about financing all the time.
Don talks about really a commitment to leadership. I think that's the distinctive part that makes it so powerful.
I've achieved the American dream, and I'm committed to helping others do the same.
Hello, everyone. This is Nick Stonestreet sitting in for Don Winter for the Elite Impact Podcast. This is where we really look at leaders and the great impact that they're having in working with their organizations. And today, it's incredible leader that we've brought to the podcast, Mr. Tommy Martin. And Tommy is the CEO of the Tebow Group, TTG, and has done incredible things in working with Tim Tebow and that organization to create incredible value and have meaningful impact in people's lives. Tommy, I'm so glad you're here with us today.
So glad to be here, Nick, and we're just so grateful for DLP and everything you guys are doing, not just to build funds, but also to build communities. It's just such a joy to watch.
Yeah, it's been great to come alongside you as we do that, Tommy, because seeing the expression of your group and everything that you and Timmy are doing to help the least of these, and doing it in such smart, strategic ways. It's just an honor to be partners with you, and DLP is grateful for that partnership. So
I love it.
So, everybody might not know exactly what TTG, Tim Tebow Group, does, but maybe you could talk a little bit about it. I mean, I gave a couple of hints, but maybe you could fill in the blanks.
Yeah, for sure. Nick, I always like to start with the end in mind. And I think both on the Tebow Foundation and the Tebow Group, the ultimate goal is we're serving some of the most vulnerable people around the world. And so I think our teams on both sides of the organization, the Tim Tebow Foundation is the nonprofit side, the charitable side, and the Tebow Group, and it's actually not the Tim Tebow Group, it's the Tebow Group, because it was really founded by Tim and his wife, Demi Lee.
That's a great distinction.
It's so fun serving with both of them, as they would want me to say.
Great.
Our teams both serve some of the most vulnerable people around the world, and the Tebow Foundation does it through actually being the hands and the feet on the ground, doing the work with our over 25 ministry partners around the globe in over 95 countries. It's so incredible to see that work serving vulnerable people and mostly vulnerable children.
Yeah.
And at the Tebow Group, our mission is to fuel and amplify faith, hope, and love. And so I think of the fuel side as putting financial gas in the tank. So when we're building businesses, it's with the main driver to help support and fund ministry.
Wow.
And Tim and Demi Lee's goal is to be able to fund the administrative overhead of the Tim Tebow Foundation on their own.
That's great.
When other partners like my family are participating in your family, Nick, that
we participate.
100% of our dollars can go directly to serving some of the most vulnerable people around the globe.
Yeah, I love that. I love how the two organizations work synergistically, and a donor knowing that everything I give is going to go straight into ministry and the overhead being covered by the for-profit arm. Tommy, you've been on this journey with Timmy for a long time, and can you talk just a little bit about your background and a little bit about the journey, because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, I was an accidental business owner, Nick. So started out as a triple major in Bible youth ministry and music.
Wow.
And found out I'm really bad at all three of those. And I hope someday I'll be good at my Bible. Gosh, we were having dinner one night, Nick, and I was just blown away by your knowledge of Scripture. And
I love
it. You've set a pretty high standard for me of guys in the business world with their knowledge of the Bible. I'd like to get closer to your standard at some point.
No, man, it's the hard part's applying it.
Well, amen. Amen to that. But that's where I started, and I became an accidental business owner. I just wanted to marry a girl, and thank goodness I did. I married her. I am proof that when a 10 marries a 4, he can become a 6 or 7. So I'm so grateful to my wife. But yeah, I became an accidental business owner because I was just trying to figure out how to provide for a family, and ended up building a nationwide financial firm. And through that, just had this incredible opportunity where sold the business, and then my wife and I decided we didn't need our own family foundation because we loved so much the work that the Tim Tebow Foundation was already doing.
Right.
It was all five of the things we cared about and were ultra passionate about on the giving side. The Tim Tebow Foundation was doing with excellence. And so we just looked at it as a business decision, like, why would we start over? And so we'd never met Tim, didn't expect to meet Tim. This is over a decade ago now. We just decided to really adopt the Tim Tebow Foundation as our own. We just trusted Tim from a distance. And then, just stayed in the loop of what was happening over the next decade. And one thing led to another through a lot of really cool God moments. I got a phone call a couple years ago, and basically they said, hey, we need somebody to run the for-profit side, the business side,
Right.
so that Tim could spend more time on the nonprofit side, ultimately working to serve and rescue as many vulnerable children as possible. And, initially it was a really tough decision because, I live in Indiana, I have a special needs daughter. There's just a lot of inertia to say, oh, this is not going to be easy. Life was pretty cozy.
Yeah.
And but when I found out the work that the Tim Tebow Foundation is doing under the hood that they can't even talk about publicly, to serve some of the most vulnerable children around the world, I couldn't say no.
Yeah. Yeah, Tommy, we've gotten to spend a little bit of time and have those discussions. Years ago, Rhonda and I went to a night to shine in Woodstock Baptist Church in Georgia, Woodstock, Georgia. And it was life-changing to see that red carpet walk and to see the things that were going on. So you all have been bringing vulnerable people to the light and having them come, because many times they're in the community, but they're not really seen. So you bring them and spotlight them in that. It's amazing. But then there's a lot of others that aren't seen that you're working on now too, to really help give them a life. I mean, it's hard to even think about some of the unimaginable things that are happening.
Well, I appreciate you bringing up Night to Shine. For your listeners that don't know what that is, think of it as a global prom for individuals with special needs or disabilities. So age 14 to, I don't know, Nick, probably 94.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely love it. We roll out the red carpet. It's an opportunity to say, you matter. You matter. You matter to us. You matter to God. You matter to this community. We partner with churches around the globe. And Night to Shine is always the Friday before Valentine's Day because we wanted that to be a special day to say you are loved.
Right.
And this last February, we were in over 820 locations around the globe.
Amazing.
And it's personal to me, Nick, because my little girl was adopted from overseas.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know she had severe special needs. In fact, we were terrible humans. When we filled out the form for adoption, we said anything physical, yes, we're willing to accept a child with any physical challenges.
Right.
Anything mental, we are not willing to accept that child because we're not equipped. And
Right.
my wife and I were 24 years old when we
Wow.
were filling out these forms. And we just said, we're not equipped to handle a child with mental challenges. And I like to think God was kind of laughing because I really feel like he was saying, you're not equipped, but I'm going to get you there.
Yeah.
And we adopted a little girl 20 years ago. She's now 22 years old. When we found out about a year after we adopted her that she had severe special needs, we just didn't know.
Wow.
We thought she was delayed from the orphanage and, language barrier. No, it turns out she'll always be my little 5-year-old mentally.
Wow.
And she is such a sweetheart, but she loves Night to Shine. And it was about 3 days before. I'll start tearing up a little bit talking about this, but 3 days before Night to Shine this last year, my little girl, I say little, she's 22, but she comes up and she has been doing her Barbie's hair and getting her dressed, getting her Barbie ready for Night to Shine. I mean, it was just, that's how much it means to her. And then the day of Night to Shine, I see her that morning and I'm like, Gracie, what's today? She's like, Night to Shine.
Wow.
It's all about me. She was
so good.
so happy.
That is so good.
And it's one of my favorite nights of the year. Yeah. So next year, February 13th, 2026, Night to Shine. Everybody listening and Nick, get it on your calendars. We can't wait.
We will be there. That idea is so pure. You think of the scriptures as really pure religion is orphans and widows in their distress, right? And I really think like Night to Shine is like one of the purest examples of that I've ever seen, Tommy. And, there's people that are hidden away and they come out, and not only them, but the one thing that really impressed me with what you all do is you serve the caregivers. And as you know, and your wife knows, there's challenges. And being able to even provide a night for the caregivers to get out and get away as well is quite remarkable. I'd ask everybody to just look up some YouTube videos and see what Night to Shine is all about.
It's beautiful. And Nick, you mentioned caregivers, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about because it's so little known out there. But there was a study that was done that looked at the brain scans of the primary caregiver of an individual with special needs. So in my case, that's my wife. That is not me. And what they wanted to find out was what brain scans do those most compare to? And what they found, the closest brain imaging they could find was the brain imaging of a soldier in a combat zone.
Wow.
And the reason being, even when that soldier is sleeping at night, they're not immediately in a firefight.
Right.
They know there could be one at any moment.
Right.
That's what this study looked at for the primary caregiver of an individual with special needs. And what they were finding was at any moment, something could happen. When are you going to get that call from school? When is that child going to hurt themselves? Or on and on and on, all the issues. And Nick, prior to that, I didn't understand. It was like every day would happen. And, if for those that can see, if this is the cliff, it was like I wake up way back here and it takes a lot to get me to the point where I'm falling over that cliff of just like, I can't take it.
Right.
Whereas for the primary caregiver of an individual with special needs, my best visualization is they kind of wake up at the edge of that cliff because it never stopped.
Right.
It was ongoing. And I've met so many incredible people that absolutely love what they get to do. But that stress hormone in the brain is real. That's what the studies show. And so it gave me a whole new level of compassion for my wife. I wept, realizing the lack of understanding I had for my wife made me weep. And it just changed everything in the way that I served her as she was serving our daughter.
Well, one of the beautiful things in this, Tommy, is it's an invitation for church communities, not for just one night, but to be involved with people with special needs, help them get out to church and be part of a church family. I mean, that's, the Night to Shine's beautiful and it's great for people with special needs and the caregivers? And then how do we keep giving care to the caregivers? How do we keep giving to the special needs community by plugging them into churches and have them surrounded with people that love them? So kudos on that. It's amazing.
I love it.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, in the for-profit side, you all do quite a bit. There's different funds. One of my favorite, if you don't mind me jumping in, I love the Eagle Freedom Fund and what you all are doing there. And could you give me a little bit of background on that? I know Wes and Vip and the guys, they're amazing.
Incredible team, absolutely incredible team, and incredible partners. We're so glad to partner with them. You know, one of the areas that the Tim Tebow Foundation serves is anti-human trafficking and child exploitation, kids that are being exploited online. And one of the things we realized on the business side was we're investing our dollars every day, and we have a choice of how to put those dollars to work. We could just put them in a normal, index fund, like an S&P 500 fund. And
Right.
I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, but for us, we realized, why wouldn't we put our dollars into things that are not only have a profit potential, but also have a mission focus?
Right.
And so the Eagle Freedom Fund is such a perfect example of that for us, where it's a venture capital fund. They're expecting to drive normal venture capital returns. That's their goal.
Right.
But the only thing they invest in are companies that are fighting human trafficking or child exploitation at some phase. So it could be they're trying to prevent those things. That's
Right.
the best. That's
Right.
what we all desire.
Right.
But it also aids in identifying and all those types of things. So we're just so glad to partner with a fund like that. Another one is the Waterstone Impact Fund, and that is we only invest in faith-led AI and robotics founders. So people that are starting businesses in AI and robotics. What's going to grow faster than those areas in the next decade?
Right.
Probably nothing. That's my personal opinion. Okay, don't we want some incredible people of faith to be the ones building and driving those companies that are determining what the future of the world looks like? I mean, imagine if the primary builders of social media companies had a Christ-centered worldview. I think the world today would look very different than it does.
Right.
And so we want to be a catalyst for founders like that want to get out there and build AI and robotics, but do it in a way as a force for good.
Right.
And to counterbalance how AI is already being used as a force for evil by some.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like it's only going to accelerate, right? Evil always has a tendency to organize. And so when you have new technologies, if we can get out in front and have good uses and good purposes, that's an amazing idea. I love that.
And I'll give you my favorite example. This is where it all kind of blends together and your listeners can understand what we're talking about. And here's a real life example. One of the technologies we've invested in, it's some of the leading image intelligence in the world. So it does pattern recognition.
Right.
And in the old school of pattern recognition, even with AI, with the formulas that were being used, the pattern recognition needed about a 20% overlap between image and image to recognize these are the same. Well, this software developer at Microsoft realized he could build it where we only need a 0.5% overlap. This 40 times,
Wow.
40 times better, like massive jump in technology through a totally different algorithm. And the way that we found out about it was Tim Tebow was at a conference for child rescue efforts, and he saw these two software engineers at a booth, and there was like nobody talking to them. And Tim is just genuinely kind. He really is. People ask me all the time, is he as kind as it seems he is? And my answer is he's even more kind than
It's the real deal.
he seems. He really is. And so Tim went over just to be kind and talked with these software engineers. And when they shared with him what they thought their technology could do to rescue children that were in harm's way, being abused, it moved Tim to tears. And I found out the rest of the story last weekend, Nick. Tim had actually turned around because he'd been moved to tears. And so these guys couldn't see, these software engineers couldn't see what he was doing. They thought he wasn't interested in what they were doing. But he needed a moment to just kind of gather himself. Yeah. And fast forward, Tim ended up becoming their lead investor, their founding investor. Right. Fast forward even further, a 3-letter agency needed help on a case. There were 2 girls that were for sale on the internet.
Wow.
Not the dark web.
Right.
I'm talking the normal internet. These 2 girls were for sale on the internet. And this 3-letter agency contacted this technology provider and said, hey, here's the images that we have. Can you help us figure out where these girls are? And by using the technology, and I don't want to get into how publicly, because we want to stay in front of the bad guys, but by using the technology and the pattern recognition, in less than 30 minutes, they were able to figure out exactly where these 2 girls were. And in less than 2 hours later, they were rescued by local law enforcement in Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow. So it goes from an image on the web to girls for sale, pattern recognition, and rescue.
Rescue in less than 3 hours total, start to finish.
So good.
And that's just one example. We are working with, talking to, helping in some way or another, investing in some way, shape, or form. We're working with about 40 companies that do similar type things. They use AI, they use pattern recognition or other technologies to aid in the ability to help prevent or identify people in harm's way. And for us, that's just, I pinch myself. I pinch myself almost every day, Nick, because...
the great part, too, is there's going to be other commercial uses. And so this primary, looking at how we can stop and prevent human trafficking, that's the most God-glorifying use case. Oh, and by the way, there's commercial application.
We can also do all these other things, which is where the profit side can come in.
Right.
And as that profit comes in, Lord willing, we can turn around and reinvest those profits right back into the fight.
Yeah.
And that's the engine that I'm just so excited to have the opportunity to build and create with the Eagle Freedom Fund, with the Waterstone Impact Fund, with Govo Ventures, which does GovTech, which is serving millions and millions of vulnerable people, and with Mammoth Scientific, which is a health tech fund. And then we also do sports investing, Nick, and that's exciting.
You gotta love that.
That's exciting as well. Yep. Oh, hockey and more. Hockey, pickleball, baseball, golf. We've done a lot of fun sports investing.
So great. One thing that I really saw, Tommy, is some of the DLP investors got to go and visit with you all, and some of the areas of law enforcement that you and Tim have helped bring together. And it was quite impressive because a lot of times these different agencies don't always get along. And then seeing 7 different agencies coming together to help the least of these. I was thinking, I'm a biologist actually, so I was thinking that, fission can create energy. Dividing can create energy, right? That's a nuclear power plant. And so when people get divided, they can get in their tribe and they can get super energized, right? But the energy that created the universe was fusion, which is bringing together. And just seeing that fusion, that coming together of all of these agencies and the energy that it gave or is giving around stopping human trafficking was really remarkable. You guys are building incredible bridges.
Well, you're kind of think I'm part of that. I'm the least involved guy on that side of the world, but Tim and our incredible Vice President of Human Trafficking, Camille Cooper, and the rest of the team at the Tim Tebow Foundation, they have worked very hard to become a trusted partner with law enforcement, because one of the things that the team says all the time is, wouldn't it be incredible what we could accomplish if nobody cared who got the credit?
So
and
good.
that is how I see that team operate day in and day out. It's, that whole team operates in a manner of, it's not about us. It's about these kids. It's about these vulnerable people.
Right.
And if we keep the focus there, it makes the decision making a whole lot easier.
Wow. Yeah, but I know everything that's going on you're a part of. And I know, in fact, there's some new projects that are coming up. And I got to see you a couple of weeks ago with your friends at Mammoth, Judd and crew. Can you talk a little bit about the upstream platform and what you're doing to help bring really great funds to market that give market returns but also have a huge kingdom impact?
Yeah, for sure. When I got into the financial world 25 years ago now, I can't believe I'm saying that, by the way. I don't feel that old. Something like 40 to 50% of large U.S. companies were publicly traded. Today, best estimates are it's less than 10% of large U.S. companies are publicly traded, meaning 90% of large U.S. companies are privately owned. Mm-hmm. Well, when investors are thinking about diversification, don't we think more is better? And if we're only diversified in the public market, meaning where we can easily buy a stock or bond or something by placing a trade, that's very different than the private market, which is less liquid. It's not as easy as placing a trade. Usually you have to know someone that knows someone to get access to these things. And what we really had a dream for is, how do we make that private market more accessible to more people?
Right.
Why? Because I really believe that's where the future is headed. And that's how you can get access to private real estate companies, to these types of private AI and robotics companies that are going to allow us to fight trafficking at a whole different level. We hope, at least. And but without an easy way to access the private market, it leaves most of us out. And so what we wanted to do was scale that up to make it easier for people to access. And so the upstream platform was created with the idea of making it easier for financial advisors to access the private markets, and especially the private markets where there's a faith focus.
Right.
And that's what I'm passionate about. Not to say other private funds aren't great, but we really wanted ones that were going to put their faith in action in their funds, like the Eagle Freedom Fund does, or like the Waterstone Impact Fund does, or like DLP Capital does.
Right.
That was important to us. So the upstream platform allows for that.
Yeah, it's so great. It's such a great initiative, and what all the things that you all are thinking about and doing. And Christians don't really always think about that their capital can have impact, right? So when you just put it in an S&P 500 fund, and again, nothing wrong with that, but could you be more deliberate with your capital? That's such a crucial part to think about, and it's great the way that you all are being so innovative, Tommy. It's admirable. Well, we can't have a Don Winner podcast on Elite Impact unless we do the Don Winner speed round.
I love it.
So
let's go.
I've got Don's favorite questions to ask you. If the next 5 years are a chapter in your life, what will it be about?
Stewardship. And that's a way overused word, but it will be about taking care of resources, not just for my family, but for other families as well, in a way that impacts some of the most vulnerable people.
Yeah, I love that. What do you do to learn new things?
I like to call it growth hacking. I like to learn from the best of the best in whatever I'm trying to learn. So one of my business partners is arguably the leading cardiologist in the world. He's the guy that's taught me about investing in cardiology devices.
Okay.
Camille Cooper, our vice president of human trafficking, she is the one that's educating me at warp speed on this incredible fight against some of the most prolific evil in the world.
Okay, perfect life metrics. What would they be? You're on a park bench 30 years from now, looking back. What happened? What are the perfect life metrics?
Was I faithful to my wife, which I can define?
Right,
Did I love her well,
right.
which she has to define for me?
Okay,
And was I faithful to the calling that God placed on my life?
I love that. Wow, that's a great thing to sit on the park bench 30 years from now and look back. Park bench 30 years from now for me, I just don't know if I'll be breathing. I'm 64, so we have hope. Don's trying to keep me fit and
I love
taking
it.
vitamins and exercising. So, what would you do if you had no fear?
I don't know. I don't mean this. I want to say this with as much humility as possible. I don't have a lot of fear,
Yeah,
and I'm thankful that God wired me that way.
I get that. All right.
It's probably why I'm sitting here today, Nick.
That's great. That's great. So, Tommy, thanks for playing Don's speed round with me. Hey, so we're engaged with you all, and we know how to engage with the Tebow Group and the Tebow Foundation. But we'd love to hear for our listeners, how can they get involved and how can they engage?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is to go to the foundation's website. So timtebowfoundation.org. And they can go there. We've got some incredible videos that show what we've been up to for the last year in ministry. Every time I watch that video, it just makes me want to go through a wall. Just the excellence with which the foundation is able to serve so many vulnerable people around the world. It's just, I'm so proud to be even almost attached to that. And on the Tebow Group side, if somebody's interested in considering investing alongside of us, we don't always have opportunities available, but if you go to our website, tebowgroup.com, if you go to our website, tebowgroup.com, you'll be able to click and see exactly what we're up to on the for-profit landscape, and also see if it makes sense to join along with us in purposeful investing, obviously working with your advisor and your other professionals to make sure it's the right fit for you.
You know, we're so grateful to partner with the Tebow Group and all the good work that you're leading, and also grateful to partner with the Tim Tebow Foundation, Tommy.
Thank you. We're so grateful for DLP and everything y'all are up to.
Thanks, brother.